Lena decided to go alone to the abandoned house on the outskirts of town, dismissing the uneasy feelings that had been gnawing at her. What she needed was solitude and silence. The constant noise and chaos of the city had been wearing her down for weeks. Maybe spending a few days in this old family house would be good for her. At least, that's what she thought. Until she arrived, everything seemed normal. The house was old, dark, but there was something alluring about it. It was exactly what she needed, a place to be alone. She was completely on her own here. No one else, just silence. It felt like the perfect place to spend the night, but the moment she stepped inside, something shifted. The air was cold, far colder than it should have been. There was a strange, rotten smell coming from the kitchen's old fridge. The house, despite being abandoned for years, still felt like something was lurking inside. But this smell, Lena recognized it. It wasn't foreign to her at all. She walked slowly, examining her surroundings. The furniture was old but placed carefully around the rooms, and the walls were yellowing with age. Still, everything seemed in place, but as she passed one of the rooms, something caught her eye, a large stain on the floor. A dark, reddish stain, as though something had dripped onto the floor. Lena squeezed her eyes shut at first, but slowly, she opened them again to take another look. The size of the stain made her stomach turn, and for a moment, she couldn't shake the sense that she had seen this before, but tried to push the thought away. Maybe she was just overthinking things, but something was definitely wrong. The house seemed to echo with strange noises. Every step she took was followed by faint, unnerving rustling sounds. She took deep breaths, trying to calm herself. She was alone, but wasn't everyone sometimes seeking solitude? She wandered through the house for a while. The air grew colder, sending shivers down her spine. At the end of the hall, she entered an old bedroom. It was gloomier than the rest. The bed was old but seemed clean. Lena opened the window's curtains, but outside there was nothing but a dark, shadowy forest. The silence was oppressive. She sat down on the bed, closed her eyes, and tried to relax, listening to the stillness around her. But those strange rustling sounds continued. She lifted her head, trying to pinpoint the source, but nothing was there. She shut her eyes again, hoping to sleep, but as the night went on, something in the house started to change. The sounds were no longer just the wind or the creaking of old wood. Something was moving. Every few seconds, footsteps could be heard. But when she looked, nothing was there. Just the darkness. Lena got up from the bed, her chest tightening. For a moment, she felt lost in the enveloping darkness. Slowly, she moved toward the kitchen, flipping the light on, but there was nothing there. Then, on the kitchen table, something caught her eye. A note, written in an uneven hand. "Before you leave, you don't have to, but you must understand this. This is not your home." Lena read the note, taking a deep breath, and slowly set it down. Her heart began to race. Something was here. Something was wrong. A presence, Lena could feel it, creeping up on her. The house seemed alive with something she couldn't see. The noises grew louder. Each step felt like it was being followed by something. The silence turned into an oppressive presence that seemed to be closing in on her. She was beginning to feel that whatever was in the house was approaching. Suddenly, a door creaked open in the distance. Lena froze, then hesitated to approach, but something told her she had to. She slowly moved toward the door and looked inside. There, in the darkened room, stood a figure. A person, but not someone she recognized. It was moving slowly, its eyes vacant and deep, staring at her. Its face was ashen, ghostly, and its gaze was terrifying. "You're not alone," the figure rasped in a hoarse voice. Before Lena could react, more figures emerged from the shadows. One by one, more silhouettes stepped forward, creeping toward her. There was no way out. The house had become a trap, and they were its residents somehow. They had always been there, waiting. Lena had no idea what to do. Everywhere she looked, there was something. There were figures, noises, an unseen presence. And then, everything suddenly froze. The sound stopped. The figures remained still, but those eyes were fixed on Lena. There was nothing but a void, a suffocating darkness. The house felt alive in a way she couldn't understand. A trap that was now set. "What are you doing here?" Lena whispered, barely able to speak. And then, the silence shattered as the figures began to move toward her again. Slowly, deliberately, Lena's breath caught in her throat. A wave of terror engulfed her, making her heart race. Her eyes welled up with tears, but it wasn't sadness that filled her, it was raw fear. They took a step closer. Lena staggered back, but something felt wrong. The house felt like it was bending, warping. She was being pulled in by something unseen. She turned to escape but was halted by a sudden voice, coming from the walls. "You found us." At that moment, a light flickered on the wall. Lena turned to see it, and just as she did, the floor beneath her began to shift. A deep, dark pit opened up in the ground, and then the light went out. The house went completely silent, as if all the life had drained from it. Lena turned, but behind her, a massive shadow was growing. The shadow extended its arms, and Lena, panic rising, tried to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She felt herself being pulled into the darkness, her body slipping, weightless, as if the house was swallowing her whole. The shadows closed in around her. A flicker of light, a sudden, deafening scream. And then, silence. For a moment, the house was still. The only sound was the distant, hollow echo of whispers, faint and cold. But Lena was gone. The house had claimed her.